Hi everybody, this is Diana in LA and Cary in the UK, and we're here to talk about this week's stars. Welcome to our weekly reading where we explore all things astrological. From our two different points of view in two different locations in the world, we bring to you a unique astrological perspective on what is happening right now across the globe. So here we go. Ooh, Mercury is retrograde. Like I've never experienced it, and maybe you too. All the Mercury retrograde kinds of experiences are happening. We just came out of a new moon eclipse last Wednesday, so you're surely feeling the shadow side of things. And so, how are you coping with all of this? Where do we even begin to talk about this week with this preceding it and included as part of it? There is so much coming up, like churning, coming up to be seen, coming up to be healed, but it probably doesn't feel like that. Everywhere I'm looking, I'm seeing a lot of things coming out of nowhere, things that you thought were okay that weren't okay, things that are surfacing. Now, of course, those things were there all along, so it's not really out of the blue. It's just been hidden. So let it come up. This is the week to start to look at this stuff, and last week too. So here we go. Cary, what are you seeing on your side of the world?
Hi everyone, hope you're well. Yes, it is going to be a very challenging week. It starts off with a bit of confusion with the Sun squaring Neptune and Mercury retrograde squaring Neptune, and that coincides with the G7 summit, which is taking place in the UK, and there's lots of mixed messages coming out of that. So lots of miscommunication, lots of statements to the world, and different types of talks going on behind the scenes. In relation to the UK, the easing of lockdown restrictions was supposed to be on the 21st of June, and a statement's going to be made on Sunday, because the variant is now taking hold, and we may not have a complete release of lockdown on the 21st of June. So on Monday, when this begins to sink in, we've got the moon forming a T-square with Saturn and Uranus. So look at the news on Monday, because that will be very interesting, especially from the G7.
And that's going to feel like kablooey on Monday. We've got Moon opposed Saturn squaring Uranus. That Saturn square Uranus aspect that's been happening last year, this year, the rest of this year, most of it is now being impacted by the Moon squaring it in Leo, opposing it and squaring it in Leo. And so that's big energy. One of the things I was thinking about this whole summit is, boy, do they need an astrologer. They couldn't have picked a worse week to try to heal the unrest that is happening around the world. And especially the conversations with Putin will be very interesting, because nothing will be what it appears. So a lot of deception, things hidden, things not being told straightforwardly. This is the worst week for this. And so it's interesting. So I'm always a positive astrologer in that sense, though, because probably this is what we need to see. But unfortunately, it's at a time when there's as much miscommunication as there's ever been.
But there are aspects which are alleviating some of that. And one of the aspects is Venus trining Neptune for the last time. So it alleviates the negative aspects to Neptune. And it also sextiles Uranus. And it's especially for people who are water signs between the 5th and the 7th of their birth month, because they're going to feel the really nice part of this, especially if you're Cancer. So for all you water signs, from the 7th to the end of your birth month, you're going to feel have a really nice feel to things. For the world, it might not be such a nice feel because there's such challenging aspects going on.
Right, so we have Sun square Neptune, Mercury squaring Neptune lightly, retrograde, Venus trine Neptune. So you hear the thing that's the same as Neptune, right? The things you cannot see, the things that are hidden, the things that are in our imagination. And so people's imaginations are very fired up these days because of the unknownness of things these days, which is Neptunian as well. And so we might be feeling kind of especially insecure about, what's coming, what's tomorrow, what job will I have, what's money is coming, all those kinds of questions. There are many things that are happening in the world that are back to reality. And the reality's tough because Saturn square Uranus. It's a hard reality.
What I find very interesting is on Monday, you've got the T-square between the Moon, Saturn and Uranus. And we've already said, look at what the news that comes out on that particular day, because I think that's going to be very important. What it also does, it starts to herald the dynamic that's going to be coming up over the next few months as Mars starts to form a T-square with Uranus and Saturn. And in 2 weeks' time, Venus goes into Leo to join Mars, squaring Uranus, opposed Saturn. These are very, very challenging times.
Right. So Uranus and Saturn, this is the time of structures and change, right? And so here's our little fulcrum, and here's Saturn and Uranus, and we're like a crazy teeter-totter going way up and way down on both sides, and we really need to find the center somehow. And it's not going to happen right now, because what we're feeling are the effects of that polarization and of that movement between Saturn and Uranus. And then as planets touch it, like they are, with the Moon this week, and then eventually Mars and Venus, oh my goodness, it's going to start to tip even more.
And of course, the more that Mars moves towards an exact T-square with Saturn and Uranus, that's when we need to start looking about what's happening and the results of everything that's been going on, because there's some very big decisions which have to be made, which affect the world, and they may not be very comfortable. When we talk about the square of Saturn to Uranus, the signs that it really affects are all the fixed signs. So that's Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. Those signs could not be more challenged at the moment, and those countries under those signs cannot be more challenged at the moment. And what is a fixed sign? Fixed sign is, we're the doers, the fixed sign. I say we because I'm a Taurus. Taurians go out and do things. Leos, Aquarians, Scorpions, they're all doers. However, when you've got the square of Saturn to Uranus, Saturn in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus, it's setting those signs off. It's either making a square or opposition, and whatever it's doing, it's challenging. So those signs are going to be more challenged than anybody else. But as Diana said last week, with all the tough stuff that goes on, there's some lovely aspects coming up to brighten up some of these challenges. And as an example, coming up on Saturday the 19th, there's going to be a light grand trine with the Moon, Mercury and Saturn. So when things like that happen, it kind of alleviates the harshness of what's going on.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to remind us all of. And so the fixed signs of the world, we're feeling very thwarted these days. We cannot move forward. We can't get it done. There's walls that block us. It's like hitting a wall, literally, as part of the interesting times that we're in. But remember, it's always for the good to restructure yourself and to work on yourself. And what is blocking you is a really interesting question to ask and might be part of that shadow work. What is blocking you these days? What is blocking you inside yourself? I always like to ask those questions of what's within us that's not the world that's thwarting us, it's sometimes ourselves. And so that's a good piece of work too.
At the same time, you've got Saturn in Aquarius. So Saturn passing through the planets, passing over the Sun in Aquarius, for example, it's the start of a new 7-year period. And wherever Saturn happens to be, it's the start of something, depending. It could be, if it's on top of your Mercury, the start of a new way of thinking, or setting your own expectations for the next 7 years. So it's not as black and white as it seems to be when we talk about these things, because everybody's charts are different and everybody's affected in different ways. But what is interesting is these really big dynamic aspects, like the Saturn-Uranus one, and last year with the Pluto, Jupiter and Saturn conjunction. They really do affect the world, and we're all part of the world, but it all affects us differently.
Right, and that's why the personal planets like the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars affect us more personally, and the outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Jupiter, they affect us globally. And so that's what we're talking about. These great big wheels are those outer planets making long positions, long aspects that affect us for a long time and change things. Sometimes they're wonderful aspects, sometimes they're challenging ones. So speaking of Saturn and Uranus, they're at 12 and 13 degrees, Aquarius and Taurus. So fixed signs, those are the numbers. If you're in there, you're feeling this hard. This week, as Saturn is squaring Uranus exactly 13 degrees, you're going to get a hint of kind of the energy of that when Mars touches into that T-square, when Venus touches into that T-square. We're getting sort of a feeling of what is happening, and it is a world event. Like Cary said, this might be affecting your chart really beautifully, actually. And that's so confusing, I guess, about astrology, but it really isn't. When you look at the numbers, it makes perfect sense. Like Cancers are going to feel really strong and kind of empowered this week as Venus is in Cancer. And especially if it's in those 20s, 19 to 24 degrees, you're going to feel a kind of relief, a kind of lift, and all of that. But meanwhile, in the world, those big wheels are still turning, and we are dealing with the results and the consequences of what we've been making for this whole year and what we're going to start to make for the rest of these years following. Like, we really need to be mindful right now. I so wish I had the ear of our president.
Well, the only person who's got the ear of your president at the moment is our prime minister, who's probably bending his ear.
So, what a week we have in store, everybody. Batten down the hatches. It's not an easy one, it's true. It's not all bad, it's never all bad. There's always opportunity in change, right? And so what is it that needs to change in your life? I just posted on YouTube a new moon meditation for the eclipse, and it's called Shadow Work, because that is the work that needs to be looked at. Well, the whole world is doing shadow work right now. That meditation might be very helpful for you to use right now in these times when we're really being asked to look at the dark so that we can feel the light. You know, it all goes together. It's yin and yang. So we wish you a week. It will be. And stay centered. Be that fulcrum that's centered as the world is a little bit moving a lot these days, and stay grounded in yourself and what you know in a fluid way, not in a stubborn way, in a roll with it kind of way, so that you don't feel so reactive or agitated by the changes, and know that this too shall pass and it will get better. But we are in a very deep state of change in our world. So have a good week. If you're liking these broadcasts, we hope you subscribe on YouTube. We are also on Instagram and on Facebook. So send us your comments, like and share, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, everybody. Have a lovely week.